What is going on, everybody? We are back with the Residual Earners Podcast, episode 30. I'm Jordan.
I'm Presley.
And today, we're going to talk a little bit about my background, what I've done in my life. We're going to talk about baseball, all that kind of stuff. I know a lot of y'all want to know that. And Presley had the idea to let's do it for episode 30. 3 is my favorite number, so let's do it for episode 30.
Well, I just realized that you have accomplished more in baseball than 99.9% of the people out there. And if we hadn't had a major injury, you'd have probably accomplished more than 100%. But it's still been pretty amazing what all you've got to do and the life you've got to lead because of that. Indirectly, you met your wife and your kids are all because of baseball now. And,
exactly.
It goes on and on. So, well, greetings, everybody. We're happy to be here with you. We've kind of got this podcast rocking a little bit now, Jordan.
We are blown away by all of the pouring out and followers, subscribers on all platforms, just everything. We are blown away. We went from just getting going now to this being, an actual podcast that's listened to all over the world.
Amen. Thousands of people are listening to us now, which is kind of pretty amazing. You've heard the story of starting it, but we just decided on a whim, kind of. Jordo thought it up, brought it to me. I didn't really want to do it, but he convinced me. We started. We pretty much sucked in the beginning, but we got it going, and then we just keep trying to do a little better and a little better and a little better. And we've had some amazing guests on. We've got some amazing guests lined up for the future. We're having fun doing this.
Definitely. And guys, I've been thinking about getting some merch going, Residual Earner merch, some shirts, hats, all that kind of stuff. If you'd be interested in that, put a comment down below. I kind of want to get some feedback on it. And if it's something that people want, I love that kind of stuff. I think I can do some pretty cool stuff. Let us know. Obviously, stuff like the RE, the sign behind Presley, we can do some cool stuff. So if you are interested in merch and you think that would be a thing that we should do, just put a comment down below. And if I get some good feedback, I'll get going on that.
That sounds good. I'd wear it.
We at least need it for ourselves.
I would wear it. I'm pretty excited about that. Well, all right, let's talk a little baseball here. I'm going to go back and I'll just ask you about a few different leagues you were in, teams you were on, and you just give me some thoughts. But tell me, do you remember anything about the YMCA?
The YMCA.
That's where you started playing T-ball.
I mean, you can tell the story about my first practice and game. You know that better. That's a great story. I think I played on the Rangers and maybe the Lasers. Is that?
I think so.
Is that right? I don't remember a lot because obviously I think I was 3 and 4 then. But
yeah.
I do remember. I can remember a little bit of the field we played on.
Wasn't much of a field.
It wasn't much of a field, but yeah, that's kind of all I have from that age group.
When Jordan was little bitty, we'd go, there was a park behind the houses across the street, and we would go over there, and he had this plastic bat, and I'd throw him these plastic balls, and he would be hitting that. You remember that on Larkin Lane?
Yeah.
We'd go over there, and, man, he'd be smashing balls right and left. And then he's 3, and we decided we'd get him on a YMCA team, so I took him and Sarah Beth both. Sarah Beth played with you the first couple of years. She wasn't quite the athlete Jordan was, but we had fun. And she was actually one of the better ones that first couple of years. But anyway, so we had our first practice. He's 3 years old. Well, then, actually, we'd had a couple of practices, and then it's day of the game, and I get this call from the YMCA. Now, I answer the phone, and the guy goes, "Hey, I got some bad news. Jordan's only 3. He can't play on the team. You got to be 4." And I told him, I said, no, we're not doing it that way. I said, that's not the spirit of the YMCA. I said, on the application, I put his birth date exactly what it is. Y'all said he was on the team. I'm not going to go to a 3-year-old kid and tell him he can't play in his first game that he is so looking forward to. And I finally convinced him that you were going to play, and Jordan's out there playing T-ball at 3 years old, and he was the third baseman. Sarah Beth was the first baseman. She could actually catch it a little bit, and we had a great time for a couple of years there.
Definitely. No, Yeah.
All right.
That's where I started, guys.
Yeah, that was the beginning of his career, and that career spanned all the way to being a second-round draft pick by the St. Louis Cardinals. But, all right, you're going to remember more about this one. How about South Garland Little League and a guy named Don Kerner?
Don Kerner, police officer, just awesome guy. I think our team was the Yankees. And
because he was from New York.
New York, yeah. Coach Dorsey was a coach as well for us then. You were a coach. And I remember the fields. I remember I was always number 3 throughout my career, and I had a best friend, Nathan Vins, and we're standing in line, and I'm in front of him. And I said, Nathan, what number are you getting? And he said, I'm getting 3 because I like Babe Ruth. And so then I turned around and they asked me what number I wanted, and I said, I'll take 3. And just swiped it right from under him, and he ended up getting 2. But no, I remember those fields. Yeah, I mean, the parking lot, the fields, we played on those so many times, the South Garland Little League. And Don Kerner was a big part of my life, especially at those ages. And, you know, we don't talk a lot, but definitely have stayed in contact over the years.
No, I think the world of Don Kerner. He and Mary were amazing people, and I saw him at a restaurant the other day. Or actually, I saw Mary and told her to tell Don hello. All right, next in line was this team called the Texas Storm and Scott Chazelle.
Still some just, you know, we were lucky that for the most part, and especially every head coach, everybody was just amazing people. The Storm, that was around 8 years old, and that was my first select team, travel ball team, all that good stuff. And God, fond memories of South Garland softball field is where we practiced. Hit my first home run on that field, and just the memories that team played. We played at a place called Ark Park all the time in Fort Worth, which was just softball fields again. I don't know why. At this day and age, you don't play on softball fields all the time, but we played on softball fields. But so many good memories. Scotty and I were best buds back then, the coach's son. And, I mean, we spent so much time together. Long practices. We'd always get there early and take ground balls and do all that kind of stuff.
Probably a million ground balls.
I
would get over on first base. Scott would be hitting balls to you and Scotty. Y'all be throwing them over to first, and we just did it over and over and over again.
And then I remember, it's so funny because the T-shirt game has changed for tournaments. But back in those days, there was one T-shirt, and it had the teams on the back of it. And, God, I mean, I probably had 100 of those shirts from the tournaments we played. And now it's like I go to Grayson's tournaments, and they have 20 different shirts, sweatshirts, whatever you want, and then they put the logo on them at the tournament, your number, whatever you want on it, you can get on it. But back then it was just one shirt, and that we played on those. You had the quad at Ark Park, and then you kind of walked up to the other area where they had 2 fields, and then that thing they called the bullpen.
Yep.
Right between them, and that's where that's where they kept the shirts that we'd always get. And then that was also a concession stand. And then they had that other field that was kind of down from those.
Yep, off kind of by itself.
I forget. I don't think it was with you. I went to Ark Park like a year ago.
Nope, wasn't with me.
I think it was with Nikki. I think we were coming back from somewhere, and we were out there, and I was like, what? Oakland was the exit.
That's it.
Yeah, and I went out there, and it's still there. It was different than I remembered. Because I think when you pulled up to the quad area, if you parked by the quad and not the other area, it was like stairs up to it.
Well, I understand that was, 25 years ago, 20 years ago, something like that, a long time ago. I'll say this. Scotty was a real good baseball player, and he started switch hitting, and that's what motivated us to help you become a switch hitter. And then obviously, over the course of the next few years, you became a better left-handed hitter than right-handed hitter, but we appreciate Scott Chazelle. How about the Dallas Texans and some dentist guy named Brooks Haney?
I can honestly say that Brooks and Chris are still very close to us. Chris was his son, and Chris and I still golf together and talk all the time. And I think last time I was in town, Chris and I went to lunch together. But just, again, amazing people. And somebody you didn't mention was George. Chris's granddad. So it was Brooks was our head coach. Chris was his son, which is one of my best friends. And then his granddad was the pitching coach. And golly, George was a hoot. But what's the name of the park?
Well, we practiced at a church called Bethany. I remember that.
But that's not what it was called. Oakwood or
oh yeah, something like that. That's been too long ago, brother. I've slept since then.
That was the worst infield. I mean, it was behind a church, and there was zero money put into this field. And you would get ground balls that would bounce up and hit you in the head. And I was scared to go out and take ground balls because you never knew what was going to happen. And we had like practices back then. Those were like 4-hour practices.
Oh, Brooks liked to practice.
Man. Now, we were good. We were very good. All of the teams I played on were very good.
I was fixing to say, you weren't on a bad team.
But there was so much hard work, middle of summer, and putting in the hours, 100 degrees and humid, and we're just out there.
You know, I forgot the name of the coach. You'll have to remind me, but you played 1 year for the Dallas Patriots. What was his name? The guy that coached us. I can picture him, but I can't.
I don't remember his name.
I can't think of his name anyway. You played 1 year for the Dallas Patriots, and then, you know, the bulk of your, your travel ball and stuff was with the Dallas Tigers with Lenny Ingram and Tommy Hernandez and those guys.
And those guys were awesome. Tommy ran the organization; it was his organization, and Linty was a Arizona State Sun Devil, was a All-American pitcher for the Sun Devils back in the day. Which is probably one of the reasons I looked into Arizona State and went there. I would definitely say it played a big part in where I ended up going for school. But, we were winning World Series with the Tigers. We nearly won the Connie Mack in Farmington, New Mexico. That was a fun tournament.
It was.
But the Tigers was a great organization and is still a great organization. And, you get lucky when you have really good coaches for your select ball. And that's one thing I'm trying to make sure that Grayson has, and it's tough when you don't know anything about a sport. But you want to make sure that your kids are coached by people that really know what they're doing and know how to develop talent.
Yeah, you were blessed, and my gosh, you don't know how many phone calls I would make, especially early on. As you moved on up, it wasn't as tough, but I'm talking to everybody about, okay, who should we play for? Who's good? Who can really teach him? Who can? And man, I made a lot of phone calls trying to figure that out.
You remember with Lenny? Lenny goes back to, I don't even know where that place was, but it was an old facility in an industrial area that I took pitching lessons from Linty back when I was 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there.
Yep.
And then one thing we didn't discuss about the storm was that Scott went and built. How could we forget that?
I don't know.
So back to the storm years. Scott Giselle, his son Scotty. Scott started out by building, it was CBC baseball, Giselle baseball complex. Awesome indoor hitting thing. And it's funny because, like, I remember you walked in, you had cages on the left, you had the big cage on the right, then you walked out and he built, and it felt massive at the time. And I'm sure it is not very big, but it was like an outdoor cage that was probably 20 foot tall. And we took batting practice in there a lot. And then there were cords across the back of it that, like, if you hit it in the top 4 foot, that's a home run. Below that's a triple. And it's like, just teaching you to, like, hit balls with the right trajectory. And we would play so much in there. And then after that, he created Giselle Baseball Complex in
Seagoville
and built a green wall like the monster
in Boston.
Yeah, so that was a little bit ahead of its time as far as complex. It was only 2 fields, but he had an office out there that was really cool, and then he put a pond, and the fences were wood, but they did chain link where you in right field of one, left field of the other, where you could see. I guess it was right field on both of them, the way it sat, where you could see through and see the pond and the fountain, and then. I mean, that green monster was 25, 30 foot tall. I mean, it was big.
No, it was pretty amazing. Scott Giselle. You know, I follow him a little bit on Facebook. He had a big influence on your career, so we're thankful for Scott. All right, here's one. How about, okay, you're going through the Tiger organization, then, high school comes, and you're at Garland High School with Kyle Lefevers.
Kyle Lefevers. Yeah, it's funny, these people, played such a big part in my life. That was a great experience besides the football aspect. I played football my freshman year, and, Garland was a football school, so it turned into more of we need to play football, and then you can go to baseball.
Well, they had won state just a couple of years before you got there, so it was a big deal.
Yeah, it was a big deal, and so freshman made the varsity team and led the varsity in hitting. I don't know about pitching.
Played shortstop and batted 3-hole as a freshman.
Now, we weren't very good, but it's still an accomplishment to make the varsity and bat 3-hole as a freshman and lead the team in hitting.
Now, then I think one of the bigger steps we made at that point in time was going to Prestonwood.
Definitely, and getting with a good group and still some of my best friends today. Prestonwood was, it's a private school in Plano here, and we had a squad. All 9 of our starters played college baseball. 4 or 5, I think 6 of us played D1, and then we had 2 guys at Texas, Dartmouth, me at Arizona State. We produced some talent, and still through the years now, Prestonwood still puts out guys to big D1 programs and pro ball in the big leagues. We've got multiple big league guys that have come out of Prestonwood. At the time when I first got there, we had at the church, there was the guy that owned Grow Green, which was probably the biggest fertilizer company in Texas, probably. And he took care of the field for us, or had his guys take care. So we had a
plush.
This thing was as big league as possible, plush field. And that was just a lot of fun because we were all such good friends, got into a bunch of trouble together, and, just loved hanging around and doing fun stuff.
You did. And then the next thing was the big step to Arizona State. I just remember the first day. Now, Jordan was National Player of the Year in high school, so picture that, National Player of the Year. So the first day that recruiters could make calls, our phone at the house started lighting up at like 7 a.m., and Jordan was getting calls literally the entire day. Do you remember that?
Yep.
He had been getting, letters from colleges and all that, and he ended up, deciding to go to Arizona State. Baylor was kind of second there, I guess, but picked Arizona State.
Baylor just wasn't my vibe, I don't think. I wanted to get away. I wanted to go to somewhere different than what I was used to, and ASU definitely was that. I think ASU is one of the best schools out there, period. If we had more support for the football team, we had sorority, fraternity type stuff like the SEC, I think it would be like top notch. But as far as fun, being you sit there in Tempe, Arizona, and in the middle of winter, it's 75 degrees and sunny. The weather's just phenomenal. So it's just such a good place to go and be active, and especially play baseball, golf, all those kind of sports, because the weather's just so good. But Arizona State's my favorite place on earth.
Yeah, I just remember that you went to Baylor, and they did a nice job of talking to you, the head coach, and recruiting you and whining and dining and all that. You went to Texas, though, and I remember the head coach wasn't even there. They just said, here's his office.
They sat me in Augie's office and said, this is his office, and thought it was so cool that I was sitting there. And I was just like, guys, if this guy doesn't even show up, like, this isn't for me.
No, and then when we went to ASU, they really did wine and dine us. That the night that we got there, the entire staff went to dinner with us, literally, head coach and all his assistants.
Definitely. Yeah, Coach Murph, who is the manager for the Milwaukee Brewers now, that was the best baseball mind, the best coach I have ever played for, hands down.
It wasn't even close. I just remember, I can tell Jordan's loving the vibe and loving, they're really wanting him, and I could tell all that. And we're fixing to leave. We're going to get in the car, and I just remember Coach Murphy sticking his head out. We're at Coach Murphy's house, mind you. I mean, the first night took us out to wine and dine us at dinner, and then the next night they had us over at his house. But we're fixing to leave the next day, and Coach Murphy, do you remember this? He stuck his head out the door, and he said, "Jordan, what number do you like?" Jordan said, "Coach, I've always been number 3." Pat Murphy goes, "Jordan, you come to Arizona State, you're number 3." And when he said that, I just thought, okay, that's it. We're coming here. We're a Sun Devil.
Other contenders that I would have loved to have gone to Arkansas. That's where Toby and Will went, my two best buds. Arkansas would have been a lot of fun, but Arizona State is, you can't argue with the success we had, and, it just was the best.
You were All-American there. You set the single-season saves record. It was a pretty illustrious college career. Went to the, like I said, World Series both years you were there. So
yeah,
you got to experience a whole lot.
And to this day, one of the top 3 experiences in my life was playing in Rosenblatt. And we played both years I was there. We played in the College World Series, and I'm like looking across the garage here, and we got a whole wall of ASU memorabilia type stuff up, and I got the College World Series posters from when we were there that I'm looking at now. But the Rosenblatt was just awesome. It had all the different colored seats. It had so many years of history and national champions. And now they moved it to I think it's called Ameritrade, but Rosenblatt was one of a kind.
It was. Well, the other thing that was kind of neat, when you walked into the stadium there at Arizona State, my gosh, you had Reggie Jackson and Rick Mundy and Oda B. McDowell and Barry Bonds, and the outfield wall was just full of these huge baseballs that had their names in them, and it was like a who's who of world class baseball players.
It's top 5 of all time. I think USC has the most national championships by far, but USC hadn't been good in years. They won them all a long, long time ago. But other than USC, Texas, Arizona State, I think are the next 2. There's a few with 5 or 6 national championships, and we're one of them. So we're top 3 or top 5 all time programs, which is pretty cool. And golly, a lot of good memories there.
Yep. And then I remember you getting drafted early in the second round by the St. Louis Cardinals.
Definitely. And why don't you go into what it's like being a parent, getting to go to Packard and watch games, and that's just a cool experience. We led the West Coast in attendance every year, so we always had packed house, and that was a cool place too.
Well, it was always amazing, thank the Lord, because of, being an entrepreneur. I had the flexibility to work from anywhere, so we actually bought a house there on the South Mountain Range in Phoenix. Jordan probably played, 80 games, I don't know, in a couple of years.
No, more than that, because we played 100 and I think we won 50 games
100 and some odd games he played, and I bet Jeannie and I didn't miss 5 of them. I mean, we went all over the country watching him play and just had a blast as a parent. Obviously, they were very good. They were ranked number one in the nation both years at some point in time. So it was a lot of fun. You know, the one memory I have is you guys were playing Arkansas in the Super Regionals. The winner of this game goes to the College World Series. Now, Jordan's the closer, so we're ahead 3-2 against against Arkansas. And we're there at Packard, and ESPN is televising the game. You couldn't have fit another person in the stands. It is hopping. Go to the eighth inning. We're up 3-2. They bring Jordan in to get like the last out of the eighth inning. He comes in and I think strikes the guy out. So, okay, we got one more inning to go. Again, we're up by 1 run. Ninth inning. They bring him back in as the closer. He strikes the first guy out. He strikes the second guy out. He gets 2 strikes on Brett Eibner. Brett Eibner. I can still remember that. Brett Eibner has 2 strikes on him. I think he's fixing to strike out all 4 batters he's faced. And he hangs a slider, and Eibner hits a home run. Ties the game. Well, they left Jordan in for the next, I forget, 4 or 5 innings. Most he pitched as a reliever that year. And
that was my longest outing at ASU.
Yeah, longest outing. And this is the game that's going to send him to the College World Series. He pitched shutout ball for the next 4 or 5 innings until we hit a home run. My gosh, shortstop. What was it? Drew Maggi hit a home run to send us to the College World Series. And I just remember asking Jordan after the game, I said, after you gave up that home run, what were you thinking? And he said, I was thinking I couldn't give up another run. But I told him that's a heck of a way to get FaceTime on ESPN, because he was on a long time but pitched phenomenally well, and they went to the College World Series.
I wonder if there's a way I can get that tape. There's got to be a way.
There's got to be a way.
But this is from my 2 years at Arizona State. My freshman year, we were 51-14, 17-3 in conference. We won the Pac-10 both years I was there. 51-14. That's pretty darn good.
That's pretty good.
By the way, guys, both years, number 1 team in the nation. The next year, we were 52-10. We were unreal.
103-24. Is that what that is? That plays most of the time.
No, we were 51-14 freshman year. Yeah.
So 103-24. That's pretty salty. Then 2 College World Series trips, and then second-round draft pick by the Cardinals. You just flew up the ranks with the Cardinals. My gosh, you were the pitcher of the year in the minors, and then the next. Your first full season there, you're in big league camp.
That was an honor more than anything. Yadier Molina, Albert Pujols, Adam Wainwright, Matt Carpenter, Lance Lynn. You got like studs. Matt Holliday was on that team too. We that was a year after the Cardinals won the World Series, and that was a very cool experience. Looking around the locker room with Hall of Famers, and them, Yadier Molina taking time to get to know you, Adam Wainwright trying to help you with stuff. That's pretty cool.
No, it was real.
Chris
cool.
Carpenter was on that team.
Yeah,
we were. It's crazy how good that team was. That's why they won it the year before, but looking back and actually thinking about that is kind of crazy.
It was a lot of fun. We'd rent a house and go to spring training there in West Palm, Florida, and it was amazing memories being there. And then we had the misfortune of blew your arm out, and that kind of derailed things. But
I had 3 different surgeries, or 3 different procedures, 2 different surgeries over 3 years, and it more was a mental. It wasn't a physical thing, although my elbow is still not like it was back in college to this day, but it wasn't a physical limitation as more as I struggled coming back and finding what I had before. Still threw hard, still had, the same movement, all that kind of stuff, but just the control factor was not there anymore.
No, I had never seen you throw over guys and behind guys.
So I go from pitcher of the year with the Cardinals to my last year. I think I had the record for the largest inning in the Texas League that year. I forget how many I gave up, but it was a lot in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Well, I remember Mozeliak, who was the general manager of the Cardinals, telling me that year you hurt your elbow, that he said we had planned on Jordan breaking camp with us. In other words, they were planning on Jordan being in the big leagues. And, that was nice to know, but it was also sad to know that if he hadn't hurt his arm, he would have been in the bigs at his second year. I mean, which would have been pretty crazy.
But, looking back, it would have been nice to keep playing a long time, but everything happens for a reason. You got to pick yourself back up, and I can't complain with how life has turned out to this point.
Now, let's ask this. Well, let me tell one story, and then I want to get life lessons that you've learned through baseball. We used to I'd come in from working, and I'd get Jordan, and we'd go to the batting cage at Garland High School, and I would get the screen up, and I would sit there and throw ball after ball after ball and work on his hitting. And this one day, he hits a ball and crushes it, and it hits one of the posts. This batting cage wasn't designed real well.
Worst design cage ever was.
It hit the steel post that's holding it up, and it ricocheted. Now, I'm behind a net. I'm smart enough to know to do that, but it ricocheted off that post and hit me dead square in the forehead, and I was soft tossing, sitting on a bucket, and I mean, it knocked me smooth off the bucket, about knocked me out. And all I could remember is Jordan comes up there and he is laughing at me as I'm laying there on the ground, almost knocked out.
I told him the pitch before, you better watch out or I'll hit you in the head.
Yeah, and he did. Anyway, I got
luck.
I got a little bit upset that day, and
he wasn't happy with me.
I was not happy. I mean, that hurt.
He had laces across his forehead.
All right. Anyway, life lessons. What have you learned? I mean, obviously, you got out of baseball. You got with Nikki. You'd already met Nikki, and y'all got married. Now you got 3 kids, another one in the oven, and life is definitely a little different.
What have I learned?
Yeah. I'm sure you've learned a lot, but can you think of just 1 or 2 things that you've learned from playing baseball? Maybe the injury, maybe how the success. What's something you might have learned?
Well, Murph taught me to be on time, because if you were late to a morning workout at 6 a.m., he had you run with a pillow and an alarm clock in the outfield until he thought it was time you were done. It all goes back to the same thing with the business principles of, it's hard work, guys, and, teamwork, especially in baseball, not in all sports, but in team sports, having that teamwork and building those bonds and working together gets you so much further. Because we were not, my sophomore year, we were number 1 in the nation all year long, and it wasn't because we were the most skilled team out there. But what we did do is Murph knew how to get us to play together, and everybody worked together, and everybody worked their butt off to we were the scrappiest team out there. And that's what led to our success. But it was just unbelievable how Murph got us all to play together as a team. And seeing that, you really understand what you can achieve as one unit. So I'd say that's the biggest lesson I've learned. Yeah.
Teamwork definitely makes the dream work. I mean, you hear that your whole life, but teamwork is so key in a team sport or in a business setting. If you're not pulling the rope the same way, if you got people that are splintered off, it is not a good thing.
Definitely. So, and then obviously it's nice. My wife was an All-American at ASU in tennis, played pro tennis, and it's awesome to have a wife that views everything the same, because I think some people think we're crazy because we focus so much on sports with our kids. But, the lessons we learned, I think it's the best thing ever. And, I'm not going to claim that my kids are going to be geniuses, so we want them to go to school and we want them to get good grades and really, do as well as they can there. But we want them to be in sports, do what they love, be able to take those lessons, the things of that nature, put them in the best spots so they can achieve what they want to, if they do want to be successful in a sport and they do want to put the work in and do it. But it was fun playing, but I don't like missing anything of the sports when the kids are doing it, because it's more fun than when I played.
Absolutely. And then Grayson, for you don't know, our 6-year-old grandson is an elite hockey player. I'm trying to learn hockey now because I knew nothing about hockey. I know a little bit now. I played basketball, baseball, football, and a little soccer, but I had never played hockey. So it's a new experience for me with Grayson.
Yeah, check out the Calgary Crusaders this year, AAA team for 2017s. But no, it'll be a fun season for him and see what he can accomplish. He loves it, absolutely loves it.
Well, guys, a lot of you had been asking about Jordan and his baseball career. I mean, obviously, the one we did forget, we got to throw this in there. Tell them about playing for Team USA.
Team USA was fantastic. It was in Ixtapa, Mexico. One, it's a long process of trying out for Team USA, and it started off with the perfect game stuff, which then led to a tryout in Cary, North Carolina for how many kids were in North? I don't remember how many kids were in North Carolina. And from North Carolina, it went to Joplin, Missouri. And that was probably 40 players. I don't know how many we ended up with on that team. 20-ish. But probably 40 players in Joplin, where we played Canada, we played Japan, Chinese Taipei, which that was the first time playing a team like Chinese Taipei. It's just a completely different style of baseball. But we went there, played well there, and then just getting, the nod that you made, the Team USA was awesome. And I don't know what I was more excited about, making Team USA or getting to miss like 3 weeks of school to go play baseball in Mexico. That was also a perk. But we did very well. We ended up losing in the bronze, we won bronze. We lost in the semifinals to Cuba, who's always very, very good, and ended up winning bronze. But that was a really cool experience. The other thing I remember there is, like, here, if the fields are wet, they use cat litter or some other stuff to try to dry them out. There, they used gasoline and just set it on fire. Chickens are running around there. They got armed guards all over the place. I mean, it was a different style. And I remember something I messed up with our travel, and we ended up flying in like 6 hours away, and we jumped on a bus and started driving there. And the AC, it was an old bus, and the AC unit in there was leaking. And so every time they turned right or left, the water would like all come off to that side or come off to the other side. So you couldn't sleep. We stopped in this rinky dink little town to get food. And I mean, it was like, you didn't want to eat because you had no idea what you were eating. It was a culture shock for a bunch of 17-year-old dudes going out to play baseball.
No, it was. And you got to play with some guys that could really play baseball.
Really play baseball. I mean, a bunch of big league guys. A buddy on that team was Eric Hosmer, who won a World Series with Kansas City, played a bunch of years. He retired after last year. But, there were some studs on those teams.
I just remember when they played the national anthem and you were standing out there with that USA jersey on, it brought me to tears.
Definitely. And I didn't play great. I didn't hit the ball great. I caught good, and I think I pitched a little bit, but didn't hit the ball the way I wanted to. But overall, I mean, that's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Nope. Well, all right, guys, I'm going to start over again on my close, and that is, a lot of people had asked, so we thought we would do a podcast on Jordan's baseball career so you would know. He obviously has accomplished more than very few people have got to do what he's got to do, and, it was a lot of fun for his mom and I, and it was a lot of fun for him. But, I'm thankful that he's out because he gave me 3 grandkids and another one on the way, so it's God has a plan.
Definitely. And I don't know if y'all can see that from the camera, but that's one of the big scars from baseball that I live with every day, and little remembrance. But again, guys, thank you all for tuning in. Please let me know in the comments below what you think about if we should do some some residual earner merch. I think that'd be a lot of fun. And let me know if you guys like that idea, don't like that idea. Just put that in the comments below. Guys, as always, subscribe to the channel. If you've been with us a while, you can notice that our subscriber count has jumped tremendously, which is so cool, guys. Thank you for the support. We love doing this, and it's nice to see that, you guys are loving it as well. That subscriber count has gone through the roof in just a short period of time. So thank you guys, and we love being here each and every week.
Yeah,
Fridays.
And we're doing lives now.
We're doing lives now. Catch us in the morning. TikTok lives, 6 a.m.-ish.
Central time.
Central time. If you don't know what Central time is, look it up. Learn about the time zones.
That's it. All right, guys. Love you.
All righty. Thank you, guys.